You bet. They will work harder. We'll soon find out because more protests are planned. One of the catalysts organizing all of this was the former Google executive, Wael Noam. According to the New York Times again, who confirmed the socialist, communist, and extreme Islam groups working together, but found no problem with that. This guy was detained, according to the Times, for 12 days for his involvement in organizing Egyptian protests. Well, here's what he said, according to the Wall Street Journal, after meeting with Egypt's interior minister. After his release from detention, Google Inc. executive Wael Noam recounted his meetings with Egypt's newly appointed interior minister. No one understood how you did it, Mr. Noam said, the minister told him. The Google executive was doing this. Wow, Google. Noam said to CNN, just watch Facebook and you'll find out what happens next. Okay, well, let's look at Facebook. There's a day of revolution in Bahrain on Monday, day of rage in Libya 2 days later, day of rage in all of February for Algeria, and more popular anger in the south. We showed you Jordan, where they're going after the Queen, and unemployment there is 14%. There are protests underway already. Yemen, they've had protests, and they have 40% unemployment. Syria, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, 15% inflation, 14% unemployment. They're in economic crisis, and they've been dealing with natural disasters there as well. And on Monday, February 14th, Iran has another day of rage. Remember the one we had, what was it, during the summer? We didn't comment on at the White House? The commander of the IRGC forces in Tehran warned the people of Iran that those thinking of attending that rally, the regime would act harshly against anyone answering the call to demonstrate on that day, and it would treat protest movement and activists as spies and as adversaries of the regime. You know, it's really interesting. Ahmadinejad cracked down on the young people in his own country for the protest, yet today he is celebrating for the uprising in Egypt. In his country, he cracks down if you rise up, but everywhere else he's fine. It's kind of strange because it's almost like a pattern we've seen here. The president didn't choose to even discuss or recognize the tea parties. Instead, he said, "Oh, these people with the tea bags," and he ridiculed them. When millions rose up all across the country, he had nothing to say. When millions rose up in Iran, he was silent for 10 days. But in Egypt, the one that would probably do the most harm to the United States and the biggest potential for chaos and a domino effect, that one he encourages with glee and talks about the young people. Man, the press should look into that pattern, don't you think? Well, maybe we'll get the press to do that after they get a comment from the president on whether or not he's going to stand with the Iranian people on Monday and condemn Ahmadinejad and make strong statements there. I wonder if he will. In the Middle East, countries are being targeted for unrest, and it is incredibly well organized. Listen how the Google executive explains it.
Did you plan a revolution?
Yeah, we did.
What was the plan?
The plan was to get everyone on the street.
Let me give you one more. To the socialist, communist, and extreme Islam that have united together, there's one group I haven't mentioned. Community organizers. The groups plotted to avoid the police and tried to squelch the protests. They used sophisticated tactics to constantly keep the police 2 steps behind. Get the whole thing at glennbeck.com. Read up on it, because it is imperative that you understand this fundamental transformation, not of the United States of America, but all of planet Earth. I've been talking about birth pangs for, I think, 2-3 years, and I've said, warning, there are birth pangs all across the United States and all across the world. We're giving birth to something, and they're further and further apart, but they're becoming stronger and stronger. I believe what you're seeing here is the time when your wife says, "Get me to the hospital, I'm about to have a baby." We are giving birth to something. Community organizing is the key. These countries have the Muslim Brotherhood, Google executive admits that he's helping put it all together. The most important aspect to understand is this is not spontaneous, and it will cascade throughout the Middle East. I hope to God not, but I bet it touches Europe and then the world. It will not have a singular ideology, but it will mean revolution, destruction, and change, and it will be led by young people, because anyone over 30 knows that chaos doesn't usually lead any place good. Take the president at his election promise. Here he is on the campaign trail.
If you'll stand with me and fight by my side and cast your ballot for me, I promise you this, we will not just win Missouri, we will win this general election, and together we will change this country and we will change the world.
We're changing the world, and you are being intentionally misled. It shows the bias people have. Yes, there's a dictator out of power, but what are we trading it for? They are ignoring any possible threat to what Egypt may turn into. But they are constantly on the lookout for Tea Party violence, and yet they won't look into violent rhetoric and actual calls for revolution here in America. That doesn't make sense. Well, it does if you know who's running our intelligence community. Back in a minute. You have to ask yourself, is the media and in Washington, are they just clueless, or are they accomplices of what is about to come? Well, let me answer that by showing the clip yesterday you saw of James Clapper. This is our National Director of Intelligence. Watch.
Brotherhood is an umbrella term for a variety of movements. Right. In the case of Egypt, a very heterogeneous group, largely secular, which has eschewed violence and has decried Al-Qaeda as a perversion of Islam.
Anyone who has a fourth grade reading... Okay, stop. I can't take it. Stop. Anybody who has a fourth grade reading level knows that that is not true. The Muslim Brotherhood has the name of a religion in the title, so it's secular. Wow, that's a tough one to get by. However, Clapper may not, I don't know, quite honestly, maybe he's had a stroke or something. Because look at him now, this is an interview, he was stumped. The Director of National Intelligence, stumped by Diane Sawyer. Watch his face in this interview.
London, how serious is it? Any implication that it was coming here? Any of the things that they have seen were coming here? Director Clapper.
The arrest of the 12 individuals by the British this morning.
Yes.
This is something that the British informed us about earlier this morning as it was taking place.
Yes.
Later in the interview, I came back to the director. Did he really not know?
I was a little surprised you didn't know about London, Director Clapper.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
That day, if you watch the news, that's all there was on the news. So I don't know who, I mean, this guy has served honorably for a long time, but he needs to be fired. That's the director of our intelligence. So now, in case they're watching now and trying to figure out what to do, you know, Leon Panetta, if you're watching, you're getting your intel by watching the news, here's the answer to what is happening. It is something most Americans have always called common sense. It's an end to political correctness, political favorites, and multiculturalism. And for Johnny Depp and Susan Sarandon, the whole crowd that has been telling us, we should be more like Europe, they're so great. Well, then let's listen to the pearls of wisdom spilling out of the leaders' mouths, you know, from the old and better world. Here's French President Nicolas Sarkozy, the latest European leader to come out and denounce multiculturalism. Here he is. Quote, my answer is clearly yes, multiculturalism is a failure. Of course, we all must respect differences, but we do not want a society where communities coexist side by side. If you come to France, you accept to melt into a single community, which is a national community. And if you do not want to accept that, then you're not welcome in France. Ha! from the open-minded French. Prime Minister David Cameron from Great Britain hammered multiculturalism as well this week.
Under the doctrine of state multiculturalism, we've encouraged different cultures to live separate lives apart from each other and apart from the mainstream. We failed to provide a vision of society to which they feel they want to belong. We've even tolerated these segregated communities behaving in ways that run completely counter to our values.
How about Germany? How's Merkel feel about it?
We are a country which at the beginning of the 1960s actually brought guest workers to Germany. Now they live with us, and we lied to ourselves for a while, saying that they won't stay and that they will disappear again one day. That's not the reality. This multicultural approach, saying that we simply live side by side and are happy about each other, this approach has failed, utterly failed.
You got it? You have three of the most important leaders of Europe issuing a warning. Why? It's a clear warning. Why? Because they see the ripples coming their way. This is a warning. You must fold yourself into a melting pot. We have known this for a long time. Our parents taught it to us. It's called the melting pot. You melt into America and her values. If your country is more exceptional than America, great, go there. But we believe in American exceptionalism, and we must teach it. We must not be ashamed of our own history. We don't tolerate extremists, whether it's extremists in any religion. The Westboro Baptist God Hates Fags Church, they're an affront. But most people know that, and they don't blend in. We shun them, but we at least call them for what they are. Haters. If your religion is killing people, we need to shut you down, put you in jail, or execute you. We have an Islamic school in Virginia. I've been talking about this one since I was over at the other network. The Islamic Saudi Academy, which operates as an arm of the Saudi government. We can't even get their records. 2 former valedictorians of the school are in prison for threatening the life of our president. Is it 2 or is it 1? It's 1 that's in for threatening the life of the prison. Another student was arrested for trying to board a plane with a kitchen knife. Saudi schools. We've asked. We can't even get their curriculum. We can't get their school books. Nothing. Nobody does anything about it. The chairman of the Michigan-based Islamic American University, the 9th most influential Muslim of the world, which we showed you just the other day. He is the intellectual and spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood. This cat, you know, the one that says this.
في ختام كلمتي هذا أن يهيئ الله لي في ختام حياتي فرصة للذهاب إلى أرض الجهاد والمقاومة على كرسي متحرك فأطلق رصاصة على أعداء الله اليهود.
You want to fix this? Start having a real conversation. Start telling the truth. Stop being afraid. Stop being afraid of somebody saying, you're just a racist. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. That guy is an evil son of a bitch, and excuse my language, but that's what he is. That guy shouldn't have anything to do with the United States of America. You follow that guy, get the hell out. We must demand it ends. You must go back to common sense and demand that common sense is restored. Reason is fixed firmly in her seat. And political correctness is shunned. Stand up and demand a return to common sense, or we will hit another 9/11 or worse. What do you say, Johnny Depp? How about we take you up on your plea to please be more like France? You still for it?